The New York Rangers are definitely a team who seem quite eager to go out there and add in another star or superstar caliber player, as they already did add in one earlier this season by trading for JT Miller. Maybe this time, though, they look to add in that next star or superstar caliber player via free agency, as this upcoming free agent class is projected to be one of the best that we have seen in quite a while. But obviously, some of these guys could still end up signing, extensions or possibly re-sign with their team before the actual July 1st, free agency when it begins. But right now, there are definitely a few very, very good targets for this team, true superstar caliber guys that could hit free agency. So in today's video, we're going to take a look at all the top free agents and talk about which ones make sense for the Rangers to go after and target to possibly sign in free agency. And first off here, we're going to talk about Mikko Rantanen, as he is a true superstar caliber player, and there are some question marks right now on whether or not he's actually going to be able to get an extension done with the Carolina Hurricanes, and there's some talk about him possibly getting traded once again before this upcoming trade deadline, as the Canes ended up picking him up with the intention of extending him and giving him a massive deal, obviously, as they ended up giving away some pretty massive pieces, a big piece of Martin Netchas, who's obviously had a massive breakout season. So they gave up some massive pieces, and with the Canes not looking to lose another star caliber player, obviously losing Jake Gensel last season there, they didn't end up signing him in free agency. He went to Tampa, so they lost him after picking him up as a rental, giving up quite a few assets for him at the deadline. And then obviously now they're kind of doing the same thing, where there's a chance they could end up losing Mikko as well. So they're looking to possibly maybe flip him, and we'll have to wait and see whether that does happen or not. But there have definitely been some rumors about that possibly happening, as maybe Mikko doesn't want to, settle down there, I guess, and maybe wants to at least look at free agency first, which definitely could scare a team like the Hurricanes, who, normally are not the first destination, you could say, for, most free agents, as, some players like to go elsewhere. You might go to a bigger market possibly. And I definitely don't think the Rangers are going to be by any means looking to trade for Mikko, but if he does end up hitting free agency, which I definitely think is kind of likely at this point, he needs to be the top target for this Rangers team. If you can go out there and sign Mikko Rantanen, especially with having Artemi Panarin's massive, 11.6, just over that $1 million contract coming off the books after next season, so not this upcoming offseason, but next offseason after that, his contract will be done. So let's say maybe you're adding on an extra $2.5 million on top of Panarin's contract for what, Mikko's going to be making per season. So maybe you're looking at about 14. That's been kind of the number rumored, around there maybe. So at most you're paying about 14, let's say. So that's an extra about 2.4 million of what you're paying Panarin right now. And with the cap skyrocketing up, I think that could end up being an actual pretty decent contract for whichever team he goes to. So I think the Rangers definitely need to be in on Mikko Rantanen this upcoming offseason. I think he's going to hit free agency, and when he does, this team needs to be ready to pounce, because this is the guy who could truly change this entire franchise just like that by signing him. Even if you have to trade away, some other guys, able to open up that space to, add in the other players, you obviously have to as well, because this team definitely has many other areas of need to kind of fix. Defensively, there are some big question marks right now going forward, but if you can add in Mikko Rantanen while still fixing some of the other holes on this team as well, I think that would be such an amazing thing for this franchise. Carrying on, though, and taking a look at the other superstar kind of guy, and that is Mitch Marner. And as much as I think he would be such a nice add for this team, I just don't see it being a realistic target. I think a guy like Mitch Marner is going to re-sign back with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's a hometown kid there, has been there his entire career so far, and I think will probably end up finishing his career there as well. So I don't see him going anywhere, unfortunately. He'd be a very nice pickup for this team, but really and truly, I just don't see him signing anywhere else but Toronto. And next up here, we've got another very good target, maybe not quite on the level as guys like Mikko and Marner, but definitely is still a very good player and could have a major impact if he were signed by this Rangers team, and that is Matt Duchene. Now, he wouldn't necessarily be a guy who you're locking up on a very long-term deal, as he is 34 years old, turning that in January, but this is someone who can play a bit of center, a bit of wing, has that veteran experience, has been around for a very long time, and he is a very good, consistent 50, 60-plus point player, but the only kind of issue is I think he's probably going to end up remaining with the Dallas Stars on a possible even team-friendly deal. He might just sign for a bit of a discount to stay with the Dallas Stars. I think that's definitely possible. It seems like he's having a really good time there after getting bought out by the Nashville Predators, which I definitely think was a very questionable decision, even at the time, but it's definitely not looking great now. But I think obviously this is a guy who is a very good player, and I think would be a really nice pickup for this Rangers team. But like I said, I think he's probably going to remain with Dallas, but I definitely could be wrong. Next up here, we've got a Danish-born player who currently is with the Winnipeg Jets, and that is Nikolai Ehlers, the 6-foot left winger, currently 29 years old. He turned that in mid-February, but I think would be a really nice addition for this team. Obviously, there's a lot of guys who would be a good addition for this team, and I think a guy like Nikolai would maybe only make a lot of sense if the Rangers traded away a guy possibly like Chris Kreider. Maybe that would then make sense to go after a guy like Ehlers possibly because of them both being left wingers. You still have a guy like Panarin as well. Then you've got a prospect coming up like Brett Berard, who is a primary left winger. And then you've got another prospect like Brennan Hoffman, who can play both, wings, but is obviously a winger as well. So maybe Nico wouldn't be the best overall fit, but he definitely would be a very nice addition for this team. Then you've got a guy like Mikael Granlund, who would be a really good third-line center, possibly if you could pick him up. He is turning 33 as of today, so obviously getting up there a bit in age, but is still a very talented player. Wouldn't be a guy you're locking up very long term, but you could sign on like a 3-year deal, 4-year deal possibly at the most. But I think it'd just be a really solid third line center, solid two-way player, can help out on the penalty kill a bit. I just think it'd be a really good fit on that third line for this team. He definitely wouldn't be extremely cheap, but I think the Rangers just absolutely have to add in a third line center in this upcoming offseason if they want to compete going forward. Right now, this team has a guy like Johnny Brodzinski in that spot, and if we're being honest, 1-2 punch of JT Miller and Trocheck, that's not bad at all. But having your third line center be a guy like Johnny Brodzinski just is not going to cut it going forward. I am by no means against having Johnny Brodzinski on this NHL team even, but I think it's much better if he's, on that fourth line or in more of a depth role. I don't think him being an everyday third line center is the right spot for him. Having him as that kind of, extra centerman or on a fourth line somewhere and being that, extra guy if injuries happen, that's fine and all to jump up there here and there to the third line. But, game in and game out, him being that consistent third liner, it's just not quite where he's at that level. So, in my opinion, adding in a third-line center this upcoming offseason is an absolute must, and a guy like Mikael Granlund would be a perfect third-line center, although definitely will not be super cheap. And next up here, these are two players who are veteran guys and obviously would be phenomenal additions for this Rangers team, but I just don't see being realistic targets in this upcoming free agency as I see them remaining with their current teams, and that is John Tavares and Brad Marchand. I think, John obviously leaving the Islanders, going to the Leafs. I think him being a hometown guy as well, very well could end up just kind of remaining there for the rest of his NHL career and possibly could take a bit of a discount there to remain with them this offseason. So that's a possibility. I think he'll probably stay with the Leafs. And then you got Brad, who I think will probably just end up re-signing with the Bruins. I don't see him going anywhere. In my opinion, he's probably going to end up being a Bruin for the rest of his career. And taking a look here at a few more really good forward targets, and you've got a guy like Sam Bennett, for example, who may not be a superstar caliber player, but I think his play style fits exactly what this Rangers team needs more of. He's going to be that physical force out there, going to bring a lot of grit, toughness. He's going to hit everything that moves out there. He's going to be scrapping it up after whistles, battling in the corners, doing all that tough, gritty, this dirty stuff, but he's going to get the job done there, and he's one of those players who you hate to play against and definitely love to have on your team, and we witnessed that firsthand in that series against the Panthers in last year's kind of playoff run there in the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, the Rangers lost to Sam Bennett and the Panthers, and Bennett was a big reason why this team lost. I mean, he's a perfect example of kind of, what this team needs to add more of, and that is that physicality that obviously he showed against the Rangers. So if the Rangers could add him in this time around, have him on their team going forward, I think that would be such an amazing pickup for this team. And there are quite a few other names as well that I think could be pretty decent pickups for this team. I mean, you've got guys like Kyle Palmieri, Jason Zucker. You've obviously got Brock Nelson, Patrick Kane, Brock Besser, Evgeny Dadonov, Jamie Benn, Claude Giroux, Ryan Donato even. So there are a lot of names out there that I think are going to be pretty decent possible pickups. We're going to see which guys the Rangers obviously decide to really kind of focus in on and target, but there are a ton of different names out there that I think are going to be, really nice possible pickups for this team. But now shifting over towards the kind of defensemen, and I'm going to be honest, there are not a ton of great defensemen that are going to be available in this upcoming free agent class, but there are definitely a few really solid ones that I think could make a pretty good impact on this Rangers team going forward. And one of them is Washington Capitals defenseman Jacob Chychrun. He has 17 goals on the season. He's known for being a very good goal scorer for a defenseman. He's got 39 points in 52 games played as well. He scores a ton. He can produce a ton offensively, which this team could definitely benefit from adding in a defenseman like that. But you also have to consider he's solid defensive guy as well, and I think would be a big help on the puck moving side of things as well for this team. We know the breakouts in puck moving has been an issue for a while, and adding him in would definitely help with some of that as well. So I think it would not only bring a big help offensively, but also defensively and kind of transitioning the puck as well. Then you got a former Ranger by the name of Neil Pionk, who maybe you could possibly look to pick him up as well. Right-handed guy, though the Rangers are pretty loaded on the right side, so unless you're looking to kind of move a guy like Will Borgen down to that third pair and possibly shift over a guy like Braden Schneider to the left side, that's the real only way it would make sense to go after someone like Neil Pionk. But that might not be the worst idea at all, because then you could have, that top right-handed spot be filled by Adam Fox. Then you got Neil Pionk, and then you've got a guy like Will Borgen on that third pair possibly, and then you have, Keandre Miller and Braden Schneider on the left side there, and you have one more spot to fill, or you possibly trade away Keandre as well, and then you have two spots to fill on the left side. But either way, I think Neil would not be the worst pickup, although might not be the most important kind of target for this team overall. And another couple defensemen that you have here that are going to be upcoming free agents, a guy like Matt Grzelcyk would not be a bad pickup at all. Still only 31 years old, having a pretty good season as well, putting up 28 points, 59 games played, pretty solid all-around defenseman. Former Boston Bruin would not be the worst pickup, also has a bit of toughness to him as well. Then you've got a guy like Aaron Ekblad, who probably ends up staying with the Panthers, I'd imagine. But if he somehow was available to pick up, although being a righty, he would obviously be a pretty major pickup for this team. Got a guy like Ivan Provorov of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Not having the best overall season, but again, would be a guy who could be a pretty solid pickup there. He's having an all-right season, 25 points, 57 games played, solid defenseman. And there are some decent ones out here. No, truly elite kind of defenseman, but a lot of just really solid ones. And obviously, Ekblad is very, very good, but I'm just not sure it's going to be truly available. So that's kind of the only tough part with him. But another guy there, Dmitry Orlov. You've got some more guys like, Brent Burns, obviously. He's pretty old, but he's still very good. Vladislav Gavrikov as well. So quite a few really solid defensemen that are going to be available in free agency. And there's also a decent mix of lefties and righties, so the Rangers are going to have some options out there as well. Anyways, I want to thank you all so much for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely hit that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts on these forward targets, defense targets? Who are your favorite ones that you want to see the Rangers kind of really go after? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll catch you in the next one, and let's go Rangers.